All right. So thank you so much for joining us today on our first expert webinar. We're very excited to be hosting these webinars throughout the program. Every Thursday, we're going to be having a different theme or topic for the webinar. So today, we're very excited to have the stories from Beyond 6 Feet Apart program. So we have invited some of our great clients from the past cohort. They're here to join us and tell us more about their stories, their learning lessons, and some tips they would like to share with all of you. So thank you so much for the speakers to join us today. And of course, thanks to all of you who are here listening us in our expert webinar. So Karen, I don't know if you would like to add something first, or we just go to the first translation section and then you take over. Great. So for en español. So I'm going to go this in Spanish just for the Spanish speakers. Para todos aquellos que quieran usar la opción para poder traducir y escuchar el webinar en español, hay un botón abajo a su mano derecha, ustedes podrán ver la opción de español. Les aparecerá ahí un botoncito, lo apachan, seleccionan español y ahí los va a llevar a un canal en donde ustedes podrán escuchar a Camila, que nos va a estar ayudando el día de hoy a poder traducir. Esto es, ustedes están accesando a través de su computadora. Ahora bien, si ustedes están accesando a través de su celular, on the next slide, please, Karen. En el siguiente slide, como pueden ver aquí, ustedes se pueden ir a la mano derecha, abajo en los 3 puntitos que hay, apachan ahí, seleccionan y luego escogen el idioma en el cual ustedes quieren escuchar la plática. Lo seleccionan, ponen español y cuando entran, ustedes se ponen en silencio para que no hagan ruido y no podamos escucharlos en la audiencia. Entonces, durante todo el webinar, por favor, asegúrense de que esté en silencio y simplemente si tienen preguntas, las pueden poner, como dijimos aquí, en la cajita de preguntas y luego nosotros la vamos a leer en alto y la vamos a traducir para el resto del público.
María, por favor, ¿puedes activar la traducción?
Sí. Camila nos va a estar traduciendo y Camila, ya tienes la traducción. Perfecto. Thank you, Karen. So now back to you.
Thank you so much, Maria and Camila, and we're very excited to present this in Spanish and English. We're learning as we go, so we appreciate your patience if we don't get it perfectly, but we're really excited tonight to have our expert speakers be the business owners who have already been through the program. We have learned so much from them. We're very excited to have them teach you what they have learned and give you advice as business owners who are starting this process on what your transition to the next phase of your business should be. This is our agenda for tonight. Myself and Hitendra Patel from the IXL Center will give just a brief overview about the program so that everyone participating can put this into context and understands what we're doing. And then we're going to pass this off to Tracy Corley. Tracy is, I'll introduce her when we get to her, but she is a excellent moderator who's going to lead the discussion with the panelists. And then once the discussion ends, we'll try to leave at least a half hour for discussion. And we'll open up for questions initially from the participants in the Beyond 6 Feet Apart program. So we really encourage you to have your questions ready when that time comes. We really want to hear from you at that time. We'll give you instructions at that time, Maria, about what to do to be heard, to have your question heard. And then if there are other members of the audience who would like to ask a question, you can submit that through the Q&A or through the chat, and we'll, if we have time after the participants ask their questions, we'll ask those questions as well. I'll tell you just a little bit about Local Initiative Support Corporation, which is LISC. We probably won't say the whole name of it again throughout the entire program. It's not easy to remember, but it is about supporting local organizations to be places that thrive, or communities to be places that thrive. We are a national organization, but we have very, very deep local roots. We've been working in Massachusetts for 35 years. We've invested over $300 million here, but we don't just invest money. We do that. We do that with businesses. We do it in housing. We do it in commercial spaces, but we also invest in talent and people, building capacity, creating economic opportunity. Since COVID hit, we've been very deeply engaged in trying to provide support, particularly to small businesses hit hard by COVID. We've been providing emergency grants, technical assistance. This program is part of our technical assistance approach, though not the only part of that. Flexible financing for the longer term, which we'll talk about later in this program, and other programs that are trying to help create stability, both in the housing space, but beyond in workforce in other ways. For this program, our goal was to provide a structured planning process for business owners of color to be able to be supported by a consulting team and create a comprehensive plan to respond safely and strategically to COVID-19. We wanted to better understand the challenges that small businesses and owners of color are facing at this time so that we can develop impactful, responsive tools and programs that can be deployed not just by us and our partners, but by the entire ecosystem in Massachusetts and possibly throughout the country. We picked a partner that's well suited to that task because the IXL Center is actually a global innovation, growth, and growth-focused consulting firm, excuse me. And they are deeply experienced with a great pedigree as management consultants, but they work to make it cost-effective to provide consulting services and to do it at scale with lots and lots of companies at one time. They have relationships with lots of business schools and bring those relationships into the program in the form of MBA students who provide consulting services to the businesses. And they've brought all that expertise into the program. So I just want to introduce Hitendra Patel, the Managing Director of the IXL Center, to say a few words about the program and IXL Center. You're on mute, HP.
Thank you very much, Karen. First of all, it's an honor to have partnered with LISC with its mission and its objectives. We are a management consulting firm where we take methodologies that have been used in companies and tested and proven, and we simplify them and codify them and convert them into tools and templates and approaches with student teams that help you actually implement your ideas. So we're very excited about this thing, about this program. I encourage everybody who's in this program in the audience also to listen intently, because the best way to learn about any program is from those who participated in the program. Ask them hard questions, ask them what worked, ask them what they could have done more of, and from there, take some lessons back home and try and attack this problem of the COVID-19 challenges and issues. Thank you.
I did see that I'm talking too fast, so I'm going to try to slow down. We're being translated in the Spanish room, so that's great advice for them as well. So thanks for that. And Maria or anyone else who's got the power to let people in from the waiting room, there's a comment in the chat that there's people in the waiting room. So this is the exciting part of this next cohort. Here are the businesses that are participating in the program for this third cohort. There was an initial cohort that was only 4 businesses. It has the 4 sectors that we had in the second cohort, excuse me: food and beverage, personal services, professional services, and retail. Each of these businesses will be paired with a consulting team, has been paired with a consulting team from one of the MBA programs that you see listed on the bottom of the slide. I believe there are 11 of them, 11 schools, and probably we have 25 businesses, so at least 50 MBA students, possibly as many as 75 MBA students working with these businesses to help them develop their implementation plans. So what are they going to do? They're going to go through a structured planning process. We've sort of boiled it down to 4 stages. We're right now in this alignment, or we've completed the alignment and onboarding stage. And the next stage is to make the business safe. We're calling that to adapt and make the business safe for COVID, the world of COVID. In doing so, you're going to hear about that in the next couple slides. We'll talk about that in a little detail just to give you an example of what that's like. The next part is to identify how the world has changed for the business, how demand has changed, and to pivot the business to be able to stabilize it, to increase demand, develop new opportunities, and lastly, to create an implementation plan. And that implementation plan will include a communication strategy, a go-to-market plan for implementing those new opportunities. It'll include a finance plan, and it will include steps to increase the company's digital capacity because that has emerged as a very important capacity and trend. Behind that process is a couple of software tools And that might seem kind of like the boring infrastructure in the back, but in fact, these software tools are a way that we're able to create a disciplined process that all of these teams can go through consistently to ensure that they're tackling every element of that the business needs to focus on to come out with a strong plan. Also, by creating a software tool that's easily usable by a range of consultants and business owners, we create the ability to scale this program and put it in the hands of others so that we can reach more business owners, because the number of business owners who need to go through this kind of strategic process right now is vastly greater than those that we can touch personally. This is an example of the process, one part of the process where the journeys of stakeholders who come into your business gets mapped through every step of their process through your business. We start with an unsafe journey map, and this is happens to be from a laundromat from the last cohort. And you can see where there are red dots and yellow dots. Mrs. Doe, her journey through, she's an employee, her journey through the business includes a lot of red and yellow dots where she could contract COVID. And the planning process involves creating safety in each of those interactions and turning those dots green, which is what you see on the right side of the screen. Just a little example so you can get a sense for how the planning tool makes it, takes a very complex set of steps and makes it accessible and enables us to help every business owner with a consulting team to put together a plan. Hitendra, do you want to chime in at all about the structure of the process or the software tools?
Sure. One of the things that we find is if you bring some sort of very disciplined process to analyzing something as fear, we find that we uncover things if we actually follow the journey of individuals, customers or employees or even suppliers. And somewhere along the way, there's somebody who's fearful of something, and for that reason, customers don't come to your company. For that reason, employees don't want to work at your company, or similarly, suppliers don't want to come over there. And when you uncover them, that's one thing, is to uncover them. Then you want to look for solutions. And the solution sets are in a database, in the software also. So you can find the solutions immediately. And therefore, two things come out of it. One is you understand how people interact in your company, and you might be able to make those things better. But then you can also find fear points and hotspots, which are not safe for employees, yourself, or the customers, and then solutions for it at the same time. And doing it in a structured way gives you confidence. And at the end of it, you can actually basically say to clients and employees, look, here's what we did. And therefore, you can perhaps get your clients and everybody else to feel confident enough to come back to work, buy products from you, start business as usual again. And the government guidance are very important and very helpful, but they're helpful, but they're not necessarily specific for every company or every business which is out there. And so this is where it's very impactful, because if you do it yourself, you understand the challenges, the issues, and it's your solutions and your confidence in communicating that. Very important.
Thanks, HP. So this brings us to our weekly webinars, which is one of the ways that we bring real world issues that we're facing into the planning process. Everything is happening in real time right now. The world is changing around us. So we have been using these webinars as a way to bring in the challenges that businesses are facing, and then take what we learned from the webinars and incorporate that into the planning process. Last time around, we had a webinar about digital marketing. One of our speakers challenged the business owners to make sure they got a marketing plan out of their consultants. That's now a part of the structure of the program. So it's a very specific example of the way we're trying to use these webinars. If you look at this schedule for this cohort, you see a lot of the word digital, and that is because digital strategies are being used to make businesses touchless. They're being used to communicate, reach your customers, to convey your new value proposition, to build new demand, and to make your business more efficient and effective and deliver a better customer experience. So building that capacity is something we're very, very much trying to learn about in this program. We think about it as a living lab for trying to figure out how we help business owners learn faster, grow faster, get more creative. So that's what we're going to be doing in this cohort. We also have been trying to engage small business experts throughout the program from beginning to end, and this cohort is no exception. This shows 4 technical assistance providers who have brought one of their business clients into the program and are going to go through the program with that client. That's going to help us tremendously because their insights are going to be very valuable to us. We're trying to design a program that works for their clients and that works for them and other people like them. There are others who have joined since we put together this nice slide. So we'll have a few more next time we review this, but we have, I think, 2 others who will be joining us, and we're very excited to have their insights. It's also very helpful, obviously, for the clients who come out with a plan, but also with a business advisor who can help them with the implementation stage. That's what the program looks like. We learned a lot from the last cohort. Rather than show you the slides we have that tell you what those key insights were, we have a much, much better way to explore that for you. We have these very insightful business leaders to tell you what they learned, and I'm sure all of those learnings will be teased out by them. So I would like to introduce Tracy Corley. Tracy has many, many skills and credentials. She has a bachelor's in architecture. She has a master's in public policy. She has a PhD in law and public policy. She is currently the Transit-Oriented Development Fellow at Mass Inc. She is also a member of LISC Boston's local advisory committee, which is essentially our board, and is a wonderful supporter of LISC and partner to LISC in many ways. Probably most importantly for this panel, she has 2 other things in arrows in her quiver. She is a serial entrepreneur, has been a serial entrepreneur herself, and she co-hosts a podcast and is a bit of a media maven. So she has all the skills necessary to be the best moderator ever, which is consistent with our goals for this program. We don't always meet it, but that's what we're always shooting for. Tracy will meet it. With no further ado, Tracy, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Karen. Yeah, I'm hoping that I live up to the media maven component of it today, but I'm just gonna kind of leverage, just all of the work that I've done kind of helping businesses in Seattle, Washington for nearly 2 decades. And then also a lot of the research that I did, here in the US and in Germany around small businesses to kind of help kind of facilitate this conversation. And I hope also some of the recent research that Mass Inc.'s policy team, which I'm a part of, as well as our polling group, I hope that'll kind of help kind of illustrate kind of what's really happening right now with our businesses here across the Commonwealth. And I think that your stories, I want to make sure we leave a lot of time to hear your stories, as well as get a lot of audience questions. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in. I've been hearing a lot about your great businesses, but I think, I really want to just kind of hear in your own words, kind of tell us, number one, introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your business, how you came to start it, and then maybe talk about how COVID-19 and the whole pandemic has really affected you so far. Amanda, maybe do you want to kind of start off the conversation?
Sure, Tracy, thank you so much. Again, my name is Amanda Miranda, and I manage strategy at Marvelous Cuts and Barber Lounge. We were actually founded by Lex Andre, who is a second-generation barber himself, and recently has been recognized for the artistry that he brings to the barbering world. And that's garnered some recognition by local and national news outlets, as well as television, including The Kelly Clarkson Show, NBC Boston, The Boston Globe, and WGBH's Basic Black. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary in May, and we're in the process of opening our second store when COVID hit. So I'll get into that a little bit more later on, but so happy to be here, and I appreciate everyone for showing up. And I think that you have a lot to look forward to and a lot to gain from this experience.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Nakia, do you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nakia Londi. I am the CEO and founder of Intriguing Hair. We are a one-stop solution for women to purchase high-quality hair extensions, hair pieces, and wigs, and then also have them custom colored and installed by certified hair extension specialists. I've always had like a love and passion for hair. So in 2013, I decided to follow my dreams and open up our first location. And mainly most of our customer base is women who have experienced some type of like medical hair loss. So they may be going through cancer or alopecia. So definitely when COVID hit, it was very concerning because a lot of them had like compromised immune systems. And we definitely had to pivot our business to, face the challenges COVID brought. But I'll look forward to you guys' questions later on, and that's all.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nakia. We'll dig a little bit more into that. So Brandon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Ransom. I'm a co-founder with Include Web Design and Web Development. We go by Include Innovation. So my wife and I are a two-person kind of core team of web designers, web developers, but we have a team of about 12 that help us with web design, digital strategy, digital marketing, and just all around activism. So our mission is really, how do we help minority business enterprises as well as social impact organizations best serve our community by getting the messaging out. So that's where our heart is. We actually have a system where we kind of build, train, and then place. So we've been running community programs on like programming in Python, JavaScript, even things like Amazon Alexa programming, and partnering with local community development corporations, and then hiring these folks who are there. So doing all this in-person type work obviously changed during COVID-19, and we've honed in on what's our real calling right now, which is helping people with their digital presence and building scalable applications, help small businesses grow.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brandon. Now, I kind of chose those three because I know all three, when you talk about doing the personal touch, you kind of, having that, frontline customer service. I think, Frank, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your business next, because you're actually in the food service business as well as have a second role. And Frank, I think you might be on mute. I can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I'm on the phone.
There.
Okay.
I had to. My internet was unstable, so I went to the phone.
Excellent. Thank
All
you.
right. I'm Frank from Espresso Pizza in Lowell. Espresso Pizza was started by an Italian family in 1962. When I came to this country from Brazil in 1969, that was my first job. I was in high school and I started to learn how to make pizza and became a manager. I stayed associated on a part-time basis for about 20 years while I began a banking career. And then as a banker, I had the opportunity to buy the business in 1989, so I bought it. I had my family, my brother, and other family members running the day-to-day so I could stay in banking. And then I moved on to community development. I helped small businesses, among other things, get technical assistance in order to grow and prosper and create jobs. But I've been associated, I still make pizzas every Sunday. For the last 31 years, I make pizzas every weekend. I very seldom take vacation. I'm still working 7 days a week. We are considered an essential business, so we never close. One of the things that we do very well is that we are the only pizza place in the Lowell area that does not deliver. So we have a very strong takeout. But having to close the dining room meant that we lost about 35% of our revenue. So this program really helped us take a look at what we were doing, how we were doing it, and we'll talk a little bit more later about all the things that as a business owner, I thought I had all the answers, but this program opened up my eyes to how I should be looking at it from other people's eyes.
Yes. And thanks for bringing that up, Frank, because I know that at Mass Inc. Polling Group, they had a small business survey that came out last week that showed that, a majority of small businesses lost more than half of their revenue as a result of COVID. But before we kind of get into more about that, let's talk, Jay-Z, are you there? And could you tell us a little bit more about who you are, how you got into business, and how you've been affected by COVID? If you're speaking, I can't hear you. I realize that I have too many things on my screen, so I can't see everyone.
I think I'm
Okay.
on mute now. Okay.
Okay, yes.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you, Tracy and
Yes.
everybody in the room? My name is JC Zuniga. I am the founder and the president of Synergy Contracting. I am a contracting company that does construction in Boston and in the area, we specialize in environmental remediation, demolition, and final cleanup. We are located in north of Boston, downtown Andover. I used to work for another firm, and last year I decided to open Synergy Contracting, and it's been a wonderful journey. A little unexpected with COVID-19, because you think that you've given like your biggest step into business ownership, and then you realize that everything that you planned, you have to replan it again. But thanks to you guys, and thanks to many people that have been very supportive, we're going strong. We have a wonderful team of people that are supporting Synergy, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we went through during the pandemic time, and I will gladly say more about what our future plans are.
Yeah. Well, actually, do you want to go ahead and maybe kind of give us a start on that? I know, once again, from the research that we've done, that when it came to small businesses, there were just a lot of, I think it was only like 20 to 25% of the construction and manufacturing businesses said that they had lost significant revenues as a result. But I have a feeling that a lot of those responses might have been from larger construction and manufacturing businesses. Tell us a little bit more about kind of just specifically how your business was impacted and how the program helped you kind of make some new strategic decisions.
Yes, definitely. Yes, if you go to larger companies, probably they felt the impact a lot less than small companies. I can tell you from my experience, being in the construction industry, there's a lot of paperwork involved. There's biddings, there's contracts, there's negotiations. So it's a thing where you can't offer your services today and start working tomorrow. It's a whole process. So I can tell you that I was in the middle of a bunch of contract negotiations when COVID-19 hit, and then the governor gave certain restrictions towards the construction industry, and basically the whole, unless that you were working at a hospital and that was strictly related to keeping all the buildings that were related to attendance for the COVID-19. Otherwise, everything was shut down. Just basically, the only people left were the ones that were working on an emergency basis.
Yeah. Okay. And so how did you redirect your business to kind of address kind of what was going on? I heard that you actually kind of went off in a little bit of a new direction. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So my experience in the industry has always been on the environmental field and the demolition part of it. And as an extra service for our clients, we also offer final cleaning too. But when COVID-19 hit, given the circumstances, we couldn't do any of the three because everything was stopped. So with the wonderful team that Adam put together, we came up with the idea of pivoting and offer an extra service, which is sanitation services related to COVID-19. And it was the best idea we had.
Yeah. So it sounds like, did it open up new contracts for you? Did it open up, did you have to like go out and make like all new, like build a new network to get new clients? Kind of what did that look like?
Yes. So basically what we kind of took a step forward, and we just jumped in a situation like this, it's like you make a decision and you go for it. There's not really too much time to think and to plan. Usually, I think that all of our business owners can agree with me. When you're in a situation like this, it's about like think and go, right? And so we put a nice marketing strategy together And I literally called every single like bigger company that I knew and told them, hey, I know that your contracts are on hold right now, but I am sure that a lot of your clients are needing these kind of services, especially the hospitals. And I sent them all the marketings and made follow-up calls, and that's how we kind of got back on track with at least on that side of the business, right? That department.
Yeah. Well, you know, safety is at the forefront of everyone's minds right now. And especially for Amanda and Nakia, both of you are working in industries that do really require personal touch of people. And so I want to start with you, Nakia, because you are actually working with people, as you mentioned, who are dealing with some, you know, immunosuppression issues when they're coming to you for services. So how did you kind of pivot, and how did the program help you pivot?
Well, I had an amazing team that was put together as well. And all of the suggestions that we got came from the team. We were trying to figure out, like, I didn't know how to approach our customer base. So what we did was we created a survey to ask them to get their input to see what they thought, and a lot of people had already, like, based on the survey, said that they felt like we would do the right thing and they would feel comfortable with all of the processes that we would put in place. But mainly what we did, we decided that just because a lot of the services that we offer can go into like 2.5 to 4 hour range, that it made the most sense to focus on the services that didn't require customers to be front facing, and also to focus on the services that took the least amount of time. So we did, and then we also, one of the students had suggested we do it just like how the government did it with like the phases, so we can work ourselves into them. So our actual final phase is on Saturday, but it's been great, and everyone's been supportive. Our customer base kind of felt like this was the best thing for everyone, and they kind of got in line. Like, normally the people that some of the services that we were offering, obviously they're used to doing other services. They kind of, for the most part, thought it was the best interest of the entire group. So it worked pretty well for us.
Excellent. And so how about for you, Amanda? Did you have to do something similar, or did you take a different approach? You know, you have a different client base.
Right. Yeah. And so one thing I want to touch upon that Nakia mentioned was we implemented distributing surveys to some clients, and also direct phone called them. So to gather their experience and their perspective of what it was like to come back to get their service completed. And so, you know, we've been in business for about 10 years at our Brockton store. And so we've been able to develop a really strong reputation on the South Shore, and folks are pretty familiar with the kind of business that we run. But as we were looking to open and, you know, are still in that phase of trying to make ourselves known as a known entity, we're trying to figure out how do we communicate proactively in a way to let folks know in this new client demographic area that we're still trying to figure out, like, what people are interested in and what do people want to know. So what we've been trying to do is through social media, really to announce the kinds of safety protocols that we've put in place through kind of like a letter to our potential clients who kind of stumble upon our social media channels, as well as, you know, communicating with folks through Squire, which is a digital platform that has the capability to schedule appointments and collect prepayment and gratuity. So we're also trying to inform everyone that, you know, we are putting in the safety protocols in place required by and mandated by the governor. We are trying to actively communicate that we're transitioning to kind of a cashless system. And then the last thing is, through use of social media, is we released a promotional video / COVID safety update in terms of what clients should expect as they walk through our doors. And so what we've been doing is, like, when a client comes in, we have a screening with them via phone. And then when they walk through our doors, we go through a touchless temperature check, and then we hand them a mask if they don't have one that's available for purchase, as well as, you know, using disposable capes for the client and the barber, and then visibly taking them through the process of like us disinfecting the tools and the barber station and stuff like that, just to enhance and try to build up their confidence.
Excellent. Now, before I kind of like go on to the next phase, I just want to ask the audience that if you have questions, go ahead and start typing them into the Q&A section, and we'll get those teed up for when we do get to the Q&A portion of this. But Amanda, I appreciate your talking about some of the digital things that you did in order to kind of pivot your business. And of course, that's the backbone of this program. Brandon, you want to talk a little bit more? I mean, you are a digital business. So, I mean, what did you have to do? You're already digital. I mean, why were you even in this program? I don't understand.
Well, we're digital, but just like everybody else, I think that our business was impacted by COVID-19. We actually were kind of the chief digital strategist for the city of Boston through their technical assistance program. So we were actually subsidized by the city of Boston to do minority business websites. And that program was stopped due to COVID-19. Strangely enough,
yes.
For some strange reason, they decided that, oh, well, these community block grant funds are no longer going to be allocated towards funding this during this pivotal time, but it got reallocated to other places for COVID-19 relief, which is also very valuable. So that was a large portion of who we wanted to service. We really are very dedicated. I'm in Roxbury. My kids go to school in Roxbury, own a house in Roxbury, and I really want to service Roxbury and Dorchester and Mattapan really, really well. So we've been very integrated in the community. We've had to switch our model from, okay, you're doing these community courses to train people to go ahead and work on community-based websites. We now have actually looked at, okay, well, how can we help subsidize or supplement digital marketing and web design costs for institutions that traditionally might not have it, right? Like most people don't have $15,000 to $20,000 to go ahead and build their next web application, because there are some already existing disparities that are only going to get worse with financing and raising funds. So we've been our outcome for this program was to actually create an MBE Digital Accelerator program with our fantastic team from Suffolk. They were awesome, and we've actually been working on the back end since this program to actually to build out a remote coaching platform to help supplement having more minority-owned businesses to have a digital experience and go through a 12-month process. So instead of like, a lot of times we as developers, we're building these fancy, wonderful marketing integrations that we realize that nobody could really understand or use. Focusing our time and attention on having our team come and do the work, get the sites up and running, do the SEO, pay-per-click ads, but then actually having training on how do you take advantage of the system, because ultimately all business is sales. So we want to help to grow businesses by having them do what they do best.
Yes, thank you for that. And, and which kind of brings me to Frank. I know that having worked with a technical assistance provider, I think you really get it, but it sounds like you have had to really pivot your pizza business as well. So tell us kind of exactly what it was that, how the program helped you kind of pivot and helped you kind of address that delivery gap you talked about a little earlier.
Well, we still don't deliver, but what the program did is that it made us take a look at our operations, and the team was very detailed in talking to my employees, talking to potential customers and my vendors, and understanding some of the hesitancy of people to come into the location, even to just pick up. Was a great advantage for us to create a flow that would give anybody entering the premises some sort of confidence that they were safe. So fear was one of the major problems. And then also taking a look at how we put a plan together that I plan to implement. We are pricing things out right now that we might be even do something that I dreamed of and never really had the chance to take a look at, we may be able to ship our pizzas everywhere. And that's a market that gets me very excited. And it's going to take a big investment because fortunately, we are running a little behind where income-wise where we normally are. But when I say we are running 65% only of our sales, we are also running 65-70% of our capacity to produce. We have 4 big ovens. We can do 20 pizzas every 15 minutes. But on a Friday night, for example, you're waiting an hour to get a pizza. Okay, so the volume is there. And in order to implement the plan, we are having to take a look at our ovens and everything else. So the program allowed me the time to sit back. And really key was the fact that as business owners, we don't want to tell anybody about the insides of our business. We need to build trust. And my team and I built trust from the get-go. And once we had that trust, then it was easy to communicate with them. And the more they understood about my business, the more they could explore possibilities to help me come up with a plan. So for those of you on the program, get to know your team from day one, get to trust them. They are a part of your team. They are teammates. So you can trust them. They're not going to go and tell everybody else anything about your business. They understand that there is you need to really keep things quiet. You cannot go around telling people about your business. So your team is in charge of maintaining confidentiality. So be trustful, and with the trust, you are able to achieve much more.
Thank you very much, Remy, for making that point. If there's anything that this pandemic has taught us is that, we can't continue to do things on our own. And I can tell you, after having run 2 businesses, that I still keep in contact with my trusted advisors, people who were mentors and collaborators and co-conspirators we keep each other's secrets and, and really help each other, kind of serving as kind of like almost like a coaching and virtual board of advisors. And that's how you really kind of help to make the pivot. But I know that, from, what we've been seeing, some businesses are just much more able to pivot than others. And so from
Tracy, let me add something that happened and I shared with my team.
Okay.
Listening to them, especially on the technology side that I'm not very good at, got me in trouble with my kids. My kids have been telling me for 2 or 3 years, we need to do this and that. And now a bunch of kids from college showed up and tell me what I have not heard from my kids. I have heard from them. I did not want to listen to them. And I said to my kids, okay, we got to do this, Dad. We've been telling you that. I said, okay, all right. So you are going to be in charge of that. And that's how I feel things at home.
Yes.
I bet there have been many times in your kids' lives that you told them to do something very specific and they pretended not to hear you. And then, so far down the road, it was told by somebody else that they should do something. And they came to you and said, Dad, guess what? This is what I'm going to do.
It's like, mm-hmm.
That is, I think everybody can resonate with that, right? Everybody can resonate. That can take us out of back to our childhood time.
The lessons that you learn and kind of realize, okay, yeah, I should have been listening and paying attention to that. So
I would like to add that on what Frank was saying to this new cohort. Probably the most important thing that you can do to help yourself, to help your business, and to help your team help you move forward is to stay with an open mindset. That is probably the most important thing, because you can have the best team, you can have all the tools that you need, you can have everything in your hands, but if your mind is not open, you're never gonna reach your goals at the level that you are supposed to reach them. So that's probably for me, that was probably the most important thing, to stay open, right? So, and if you hear to most businesses, everybody went through the same thing. Like I wanted to stay away from clean. I clean at home all the time. I don't want to go places and clean. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. I wreck stuff. I wreck stuff. That's the perfect job for me. But that is, if something that I cannot stress enough is you need to stay open. You need to stay open, because the way we used to do business is no longer viable. It's no longer viable. No, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. If you feel upset about it, if you're in denial, you need to move forward. You push your mind to do things. You're gonna feel uncomfortable because change is uncomfortable. Everything new is uncomfortable. There's something about us that since we're born, the majority of people are, they want to stay in a place, right? Like you're born and you stay there and you grow there, you plant your roots there, and you sit and you die there. This is not the time for that mindset. We need to, if something positive this COVID brought us, is the ability to move forward, to think, to get up out of our comfort zones, get out of a comfort zone and rebuild. And this is the time to rebuild. This is the time to grow as a person, as a business owner, as a father, as a parent. You really, really need to move forward and forget about what you know. This is not everything that you learned in it's pre-COVID is not applicable. It's not applicable.
Absolutely.
That little place that you have there where everybody went and bought from you without the website, without the online payment system, your neighbors calling you at home to buy, that's no longer viable for you. Either you move forward or you die.
Yeah. Well, I went through and I cleaned out my books, and I had like 2 boxes of business books that were just laughable. Like that hasn't been like relevant since the last Great Recession. So, you kind of have to constantly, but I think that entrepreneurs are hardwired like that. But Brandon, did you have something and some advice you want to kind of share?
I wanted to latch onto that, the fantastic advice of Jesse. Like, ultimately, I think don't be afraid to push for growth of your core business model as well. I think like a lot of us are talking about pivots and changing and all that good stuff. We had problems before this. I mean, I know our business had problems before this. It's not like we were over here, the $100 million gorilla over here. That there are issues in your business right now that can be fixed, that can be solved, that you can put really, really smart minds and talented people to work on. Take full advantage of that. And like, they always say it's hard to fill a full it's hard to fill a full cup, right? So come to the conversations with an air of humility, because people are literally coming with the spirit to help you ultimately and help you grow your business.
Yeah. So looking for the helpers and keeping your mind open. But go ahead, Amanda. I apologize.
No worries. I think, I echo everything that Jesse, Frank, and Brandon has said. I think one other thing to just frame this opportunity, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, these become our babies, right? And there's a lot of blood and sweat and tears and countless late nights to like make sure that everything is fitting and piecing together. But I would really urge and encourage all of you to really sit in and lean into the space of vulnerability and allow this to be an opportunity to have somebody come in purely from an objective perspective to share like, hey, like I know that you have this kind of routine of how you do and conduct your business, but like there may be an efficient way to do it, right? And so be open to that, like Jesse said so beautifully earlier, because in times of crisis and in times of uncertainty, I think it's also an enabler to allow us to become more ingenuous and innovative. So let the MBA case team help you do that. I've recognized time and time again the tremendous level of care and professionalism that each of the cohort members within my MBA case team brought, and the level of quality and thought that they put into the work product, into the deliverable. So you'll be in good hands. And I think it's about managing your own expectations and setting expectations of what you want to gather from them too.
Excellent.
You know, one of the things that my team also reminded me of is that as an immigrant, and as I told you, my first job from when I came from Brazil, then I bought the business and so forth. A lot of times we tend to think with our heart, and our heart is not made to think. Our head is. So my team maybe walked me to the to that and said, "Gee, Frank, a lot of the decisions you're making with your heart, it shouldn't be that way. It's a business. I mean, you put your passion, you put your love into everything that you're doing. You're very proud of it, but put that aside and look at it with different set of eyes. Look at it by analyzing things and making decisions with your head, because that's what your head is made for."
Excellent. Yeah. So I wanted to ask Nakia, do you have any advice and words of wisdom that you would like to share with the kind of the next cohort?
Well, Frank actually said something as he was talking. I was like, oh yeah, it gave me a chance. Actually, what I did love about it is that to do things that I've always put off for so long. So I'm super grateful for the program, because actually we were like, I had been talking about for years to like try to become an in-network provider for wigs. And because I had so much time and I was like, you know, this is the time to just do it. We finally got it done. So I'm so thankful for just the chance to be able to work on the things, or just even just think about the ideas of everything that you thought you wanted to do or where you want your business to do. And then you guys can like kind of really just try to figure it out, like, you know, brainstorm and definitely be open to the process. Just be open. Yeah. And I think it will definitely work out.
Great. Well, I do want to have a conversation. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit, because I know that we have a lot of information that shows that our hardest hit businesses have been businesses of color. And all of you are entrepreneurs of color. I want to hear a little bit more about your experiences there, and if it's like actually made a difference. And if it's actually happened, how has the program helped you kind of get over some of the hurdles that other businesses have been having? Because, you know, we're seeing, you know, when it comes to our smaller businesses of color, especially like in our gateway cities, which tend to be more Latina owned businesses, you know, we're hearing, you know, a large percentage of those folks, you know, aren't going to come back from this. So what have you guys been doing? I mean, how has being an entrepreneur of color affected you?
I can start share my, you know, give my experience based as a Hispanic, a minority in the business. I chose, this is like the kind of business that I chose. It's, so I'm a woman, minority in the construction industry.
Yeah. I'm a former architect, so I know. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's so hard that, you know, the state and the government in general have put in place regulations because there's so little opportunity for us out there. So it was hard enough. Yeah. I mean, it, like I said, it's not an easy task being a new business too. It's you're still building, right? You're building your reputation, you're getting your new clients. And so being a woman, minority, and I live in Lawrence. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people hear that Lawrence and it's like a, you know, like a ring bell, like, oh my God, like it's so bad. And and media has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. Especially, you know, newspapers and stuff like that. When they don't have a story to sell, they do. And unfortunately, Lawrence is kind of like the magnet for bad stories. But so during COVID, I forgot that I was a minority, because I felt more like, oh, now everybody feels like I'm feeling, like I feel all the time, right? And now we're on the same boat. Mm-hmm. Now it's like we're all struggling. Now you can feel like, and I actually have have been having conversations with minorities, and they said, oh, like I feel like for the first time how hard it is to be in your shoes, right? Yeah, I never thought it that way. So I think that not just the struggle, but something beautiful comes out of it. When you struggle and when you try to, make it work, you also give yourself the opportunity to put yourself out there and to show people that you're a lot more than a gender or a race or a color. And that is the beauty of it. So I think we can spend days talking about all of the bad things that happen to us on a daily basis as minorities and or in the Black community, but there's a beauty in it too. And so I'm a positive person by nature, so I always see like the glass is half full. So
Yeah. Well, I think
everything.
that there are a lot of people who agree with you that I think for the first time, in a long time, if not if ever, empathy is something that people are learning and they're actively practicing, or at least thinking about actively practicing. And so do the rest of you agree? Have you had a similar experience?
Yeah, so I'd like to chime in, Tracy. So, in the context of going through this pandemic, unfortunately, Black and Brown communities are generally impacted the most at a disproportionate rate, right? And we all know that. Like, even looking back to the financial crisis of 2008 and 9, over half of the total wealth that Black families and individuals had were completely wiped out. And I think we're going to continue to see certain trends. And operating in the personal care services industry through, offering haircuts and barbering services. And eventually we're looking to roll out our massage therapy services, nail treatments, and facial specifically catered to men, but all patrons would be, welcome. We had to have really tough conversations that were challenging to get support from our landlords, right? And had to instill confidence of like into our employees to say, we're doing everything that we can, and things are tight, but we try to, even though we didn't have a solution directly, we always tried to point them to resources that would help support in some way. And then another thing too with PPP, I know that there were significant discrepancies between who got the money. And
Yeah.
in some instances we were very lucky because we were able to get some funding, but I know that a lot of minority owned businesses didn't have that experience. And despite the fact that Congress had urged banks to really prioritize minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and rural businesses, by distributing that money to the banks to be leveraged as the middleman, there was no real way to track that accountability or say like, how to hold them up against that expectation. And a lot of times, minority business owners don't have strong relationships with traditional financial institutions. And so when you compound that against banks were only prioritizing existing clients, or, we're not, we're delaying applications submitted by sole proprietors, right, which many minority businesses are, that leads to this compounding impact and effect that is going to be felt later on down the line. And so
Yeah.
I think this is also an opportunity for us to think more strategically about how we position ourselves from a legal perspective, and how we set up the businesses, right? Whether
Yes.
moving or transitioning from a sole proprietorship to a C Corp or an S corporation, but those things, and I think, through LISC and through IXL, like you're going to have those discussions where experts come in to try to help you understand and parse through what all that means and what all that entails. So you get a lot of technical knowledge. And so I think this is also an opportunity to really think more holistically outside of what your actual service or product is day to day, but like think about the legacy of your business as a whole.
And all of that is spot on. And as I mentioned, we have some data that kind of really kind of backs up everything you just said, Amanda. We know that the money has been going to communities, mostly in Metro Boston, whereas, in a lot of our gateway cities and other surrounding communities, we have a large number of people of color who are running businesses, the smaller businesses. We have some communities where we haven't seen any PPP loan money going to those communities, as well as there are a larger number of the smaller businesses are getting less than what they asked for. I know that we actually have a couple of people on the call who were instrumental, some of the people who kind of sponsored some of that research. If you don't mind, I'm going to actually put a link to that research here in the chat box for all attendees so you can kind of take a look at that. But when it comes to business formation, yes, making sure that you're protecting yourself, that you have insurance, that you have the tools that you need. But then there are also just a number of structural things we need to change. And so I've written a piece with some ideas as to kind of some of the things that the state can do, some things that the foundations can do, just changing underwriting rules and things that the banks can do, because we have seen examples from other countries where whenever a business owner whose personal success and their ability to kind of stay in their homes is tied to the success of their business, all of a sudden they're not only losing their business, they're losing their homes, and it's impacting neighborhoods and communities. And so, I mean, there's just all of these interconnected things. But if we find that, business owners of color are being discriminated against and aren't getting the kinds of opportunities that that white-owned businesses are getting. If we know that, nationwide, the discrepancy between Black-owned businesses and white-owned businesses is $17,000 for Black-owned businesses as median household wealth versus $175,000 for median white households. But then you look at Metro Boston, the difference is, I think it's $270 compared to $8. And if you're Latino, that number drops to 0. And so our data has shown that, when it comes to who's being hardest hit right now, minority-owned businesses are bearing the brunt of this. And then if you want to talk about intersectionalities, women-owned minority businesses are even worse off. And so we do have an audience question. Someone asked, based upon your experiences, would any of you be willing to kind of mentor some of the businesses in your communities? Are some of you already doing this? I know, Brandon, you talked about some of the support.
I literally
Want to talk a little bit more about that?
To eat for all today. So anybody who's got little questions, I wanted to answer your question that I did get a chance to answer. I really felt very heavy before this experience, to be very honest. Like kind of trying to find purpose, see where we fit into all of this. Because, I mean, honestly, our accelerator came out right when George Floyd happened, right? Like it was a lot of trying to figure out how we felt, what was kind of going on. And also, there were varying levels of understanding amongst groups and cultural differences in kind of how that situation looked or was handled. So I felt very heavy for a large portion of the program. And I was glad that I was able to kind of work it out and talk it out with some of the my other cohort members. And also try and kind of find a strategy for where I fit. Like I've been able to find that working with people on their digital strategy as a tool of activism, right? And not everybody's in the streets. My form of activism is economic development through digital strategy. That's where I fight. That's my social version of social justice. And so it was very hard to see, like you want to be out in the streets, but you're like, I got 2 kids. I can't get COVID out here. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of things boiled up in once, but use this alumni group alumni group as well as your current cohort as support, because sometimes people don't understand what you're going through as a small business owner. And as far as mentorship, like, we should all find a way to have a better structure for coming back and speaking with the group before, because we should be doing more business. I want to see what is the number of contracts that are facilitated between these businesses, and not only these businesses, but these businesses and hopefully the state as well. Maybe we can start bundling the businesses that are here to maybe apply. Maybe Jesse wants to go for a contract to go ahead and clean work with the State House, or those contracts are available, and maybe it takes 3 people, 3 similar companies. We have these opportunities, and I would love to see more collective action to go and acquire some of this massive funding that's out here. Oh, I guess we only got out of $600 million of discretionary funding, people of color got $6 million. So that's got to change. Don't make no sense.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I had no idea.
On that note, right, for how many, I have a question for the audience, for all of the new, how many of you have been in the business for less than a year? I would like to hear that, because it's a totally different thing for us. And in every case, like every single, if you've been in business for less than a year, the books that they require for, and even the grants, even the small, like the simplest thing, it will require you to provide a very well detail of your expenses and your incomes. That's called, so your books, right? Basically your books. So if you haven't filed taxes because you're in your first year, that makes it a lot harder. So I am basically bringing this up is because not everything is going to be available for you. Even if you're a minority, even if you are, you know, like a small company, you have to be prepared for, you know, to apply to several things. And it's, you know, that's where it gets split, right? So every single business is different. The services that you provide are different, but the fact that if you're less than a year, if you have been in the business for less than a year, that puts you in a totally different box than everybody else. And you should prepare, because I went through it. I know how hard it is. Sometimes you check all of the boxes, but that one. And if you cannot provide with copies of your latest tax returns on the business level, all of your eligibility goes down the window. So be prepared for that, and look for, I cannot tell you enough, resources. Look for resources. They're everywhere. If you just go Google it, you can talk to the phone now. You don't even have to write to see or anything. But you have to keep yourself informed. There's a lot of beautiful programs out there like this one, right? So how do you find out about this one? The same way as you found out about this one, then keep on looking for resources for you, because let me tell you, the government or the minority is not thinking about us.
I mean, that's a great point. And I just want to ask the panelists, just how many of you felt like before you came into the program, you would have been prepared to file for a PPP loan?
I have to confess that I was. I have to confess that I was. And because I have had I've been fortunate enough to have many experiences in my life. And for the last 20 years, I've been a community economic development type of person, helping small businesses. So I help people understand very basic accounting. I help people understand how to put a business plan together. I was a banker, so I started an organization called a Community Development Financial Institution, where we focus on minority-owned businesses and we invest in low-income communities. So having all that background, filing a PPP loan was not difficult for me. But what happened is that we had a lot of our clients coming to us and say, gee, my bank won't let me file an application because I don't have an account there. I only have a checking account. We filed, never got an answer. And I heard so much of that I picked up the phone and called somebody that I knew in the field, Glenn Lloyd. And a lot of people on the call, the panelists might know him. And Glenn and I started to talking. Soon enough, we got Karen, we got other people. We form a coalition where we focus on bringing PPP to the minority-owned businesses in Massachusetts. And I believe we succeeded very well doing that. But even the amount of loans that we processed, the amount of money that was through, was nothing. It was a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of money that was out there to be had. I'll stop there. I don't want to dominate the conversation.
Yes. Well, Frank, we know that you've got the experience. I mean, you come into it with like all of this technical assistance experience, you know, this banking experience. I mean, you just, you know, you got to pull it all together. But most people start their businesses because they have a passion for something, because they love to like make really great pies, or they love working with hair, or they love being in construction, or they love doing technology and web design. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have the tools and the skills to kind of really manage their business to a level that is kind of expected by the financial services industry or by the reporting agencies. And so for the rest of you, do you think that you were prepared prior to the program?
Yeah, so this is Amanda again. We were prepared. We were also in the process of seeking out other loans because we were building out to our second store, and you know, we're opening a 2,000 square foot facility, which has 8 barber chairs, and then 2 massage rooms, a nail treatment room, and a space to do facials. So because we were already in that cadence, we were able to kind of just adapt and reset, I guess, the question of like how much money we did need now, because in conjunction to the funding we needed to build out, like we also needed to stay afloat because we had to shut down our business in Brockton, which was successful for 10 years and all that. And we were thinking that this is a good time as ever to open a second location, because in the uptick of trying to grow the business in Boston, we could leverage the first shop to offset expenses, right? And then that kind of just went and imploded. So
yeah, so yeah, it's good to hear that, you know, you kind of came into it really prepared. And so, but before we kind of ask this of the rest of the panelists, we're going to actually throw up a poll right now, just to see just exactly how long, you know, for those business owners in the audience, how long have you been in business? And then while you guys are asking that, answering that, maybe, you know, kind of, Nakia, where were you guys at? And JC, where were you guys at?
I would say we were, you know, we were prepared, but you know, this time was a very difficult time for me. You know, I had to let go one of my employees that had been working with me for several years. It was in a very emotional time. I had to be vulnerable, and during the shutdown, my store was like vandalized and looted. So it was just you know, dealing with a lot. So, you know, what actually helped me too was that for the first time, I actually started to go into therapy, because, you know, it's an emotional time for everyone. And I would say to just be open and be vulnerable too. And don't be afraid to tell people, you know, your truth. It's okay, because, you know, the more you talk about it, the more people can help you, and the more resources that are available. So I would definitely, if anyone has any questions, you can definitely always reach out to me on LinkedIn, through email. But yeah, we were prepared, but I wasn't prepared for a lot of the other stuff, having to let go of an employee, had to dealing with, you know, doing the renovations. We were already struggling. We were down already about 70% year over year because of the COVID. And then that happened. So, you know, it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for sharing that. I mean, because whenever we talk about, you know, some of our smaller businesses, we talk about how, you know, we see some of the numbers that say, you know, a lot of more people are getting laid off from the larger businesses. And a lot of times, because in our smaller businesses, you know, we feel like family, and it's really hard to kind of think about, you know, kind of laying people off. And so you have to make that, it is an emotional strain. And so, and when you do layer that on top of what's happening with COVID, and then what's happening, you know, with our kind of our civil rights moment that we're going through right now, this kind of racial reckoning, it's a lot to process. And so how about you, JC?
What can I tell you? I had just started a business.
You just want to wreck things, right?
No. You have no. If I could write a book about that. No, but seriously, when it comes, I think that for me the most difficult part was the self pressure of knowing that people had come to me that had decided to come and work with me, and you know, when you're basically negotiating contracts, and then you're thinking, okay, so I have this contract already set up. I can put so many, the construction industry is a little bit more different than, you know, services that you provide, or you know, retail, right? Construction is, if you don't have the contract, you can't hire anyone. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter. It's all based on contracts. And I felt like I was going to fail people, and I had to put a lot of people on hold and tell them, hey, listen, we are definitely, we're coming together, we're growing together, but we're gonna have to press the brake for a little bit until this pandemic, we resolve this issue. Not so much, I don't feel like the approach was the right approach for many businesses, and starting from the government. I can have another book written about that, so let me not just steer away from that. But what I'm saying is, we weren't well informed. Everybody thought, oh, it's gonna be like, oh, a month at home, stuff that I haven't done. This is not gonna, you know, be as hard. We saw the news, we took it, you know, not as seriously as we should have, and it's all based on what you see on media and what you hear from your leaders, your community leaders, your country leaders. And I'm going to say this: do not be afraid. Do not be afraid of feeling, hey, sometimes you're gonna feel like you wanna scream. Go ahead and scream. And you're gonna cry, it's okay. I'm gonna, you know, follow through with what Nikia said. It's, at the end of the day, this is the thing, that the way I see it, right? Business, it's you put a store, or you offer a service, but at the core of that, what it's all about is about relationships. It's all about relationships and what you do with them. So your clients, they're not just your clients. Those are people that you know, people that you get to know and you care for them. Your employees, the same thing. And it's all about relationships, and how good of a relationship can be if you're not able to connect. And in order to connect, you have to have the ability to be vulnerable, to say, not just listen about how everybody's panicking or crying or going, you know, overboard buying toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
It's about, you know, your insecurities and your fears, and you know, how much you're struggling too. So
Yeah,
it's gonna, you know, it's gonna get darker, and we're still on the river. We're still on the river. It's just, it's masked through so much stuff. But if you build that community, in that your sphere of influence, that little, you have the power. And this is where your biggest strength is, the things that you can control. And the only thing that you can control now is the relationships that you build, the relationships that you maintain, and the relationships that you say you let go, because that's as an important.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
JC, just a comment to JC. JC, in your instance, you must have really been hit real bad, because the bulk of your business is the spring and summer and maybe early fall. And in the winter time, because of conditions, there is not much construction or demolition going on. So you're coming out of your low season into your beginning of your high season, and then you're out of business, right?
Yeah. That's correct. I couldn't say that better. Exactly. And not just that, the contracts, right? Like, so in order to have work in summer, basically spring is where contracts happen. And same here, like we're in summer, and that's where you're actually negotiating contracts for the fall. So in my case, every season, the season before, it shapes your next one and your next one. So it's hard, but I'm hopeful. We'll do great. You're gonna see Synergy trucks all over Boston.
Yeah. Well, on that, I'm looking forward to that. And I also want to see them in our gateway cities too, because we need so much development there as well. But I think we have the results of our poller in. I know that, I wanted to give the panelists some time to kind of share their experiences there. But as you can see, a majority of the people who are on the call with us today have been in business for over a year, with more than half in business for longer than 3 years, which is a good sign, because usually, for small businesses, that 3-year mark is kind of, that kind of make or break moment. But, of course, everything is now so different with where we are. But I know that there's a lot more that we could be talking about right now, but I want to make sure that as we kind of close out this conversation, that we have a chance to kind of come back to like the focus of this kind of the program here, that kind of the thing that kind of brought everyone together in this cohort and the next. Can you talk a little bit more about the digital tools that you decided to use in the program, and also kind of what do you think the impact is going to be on your business? And then as we close out, if there's anything you want to share that you're most proud of, or any additional advice you want to give to folks, please, share. And I got the poll off my screen, so I feel better. So thank you.
I'm happy to kick us off. I think
Okay.
I got to the digital tools use earlier, so I won't repeat that. But in terms of advice for this next cohort, this is such a time of uncertainty and a lot of tears, a lot of screaming, right? Like Jesse was saying. But try to take this opportunity and have fun with it, because it's almost like a rebirth of your companies. And the way that I approached each of my meetings with the MBA team was from a place of trying to get to know them better and making sure that they felt like they were a part of my team as well. And so, for instance, as we were starting each meeting, I began with an icebreaker, and it was a simple question. Sometimes it was like, what was your favorite Amazon quarantine purchase? Or like, what kinds of things are you collecting? And that just, helps people open up a little bit. And so I would just say, really manage and set expectations from the beginning. I know HP will say, demand a lot from them, because they are here to support and service you. So keep that in mind and really lean into the process, because it is fruitful, and you'll get you'll get out what you put into it.
Excellent advice. Anyone else want to share something?
Well, I would say that for digital tools, I did some, but now I'm doing a lot more virtual consultations, and you can definitely use Zoom for like anything that you do to do some type of tutorials or classes, because there's always people out there that want to learn more, or that are in your field, especially if you've been in business and you're considered an expert in your field, that you can definitely generate revenue that way. I hadn't been using email marketing, and the team had got me started with sending out the emails, which were absolutely great. I've gotten so many sales from them. It's like ridiculous. So I'm thankful for that. And then we also did, since we started the program, I've been doing some Google advertising, and that's also generated a lot of traffic and some conversions on my website as well.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Anyone else want to share before we kick it back over to Karen to close us out? Yeah. Oh, so go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I was one of the guys who might have been a little ahead of the curve as far as digital tools, but I do think that one thing that this really helped me to focus on is how do you shift from a one-time service model to a recurring revenue model? I think that that's one thing that has really, really been challenging, especially, I'm like Jizzy, right? Like if we essentially build houses online as a web development firm, right? So you can have accounts receivable that can get kind of crazy very, very fast. So having an underlying stream of recurring revenue and recurring billing is absolutely key. Utilizing tools to do that, and reminder systems, SMS, because you got to go get your money in this period. This is not easy collection time from small business. So utilize every tool that's at your disposal to make sure that you're staying afloat, but while still being empathetic. Like, we all know what's going on. So don't be a jerk.
Yeah. But make the
And
mailbox money if possible. So
if
yeah.
you have if you have kids who are telling you that you need to do certain things digitally and you have not listened to them, listen to your team, but let your kids know that that was you injecting their ideas into the plan. That will save you a lot of grief with them.
thank you, Frank. And
My
Jesse?
case, so I used a lot of the marketing materials that we created. I did use, I'm actually using them right now, and yes, definitely they generate interest. There's nothing that as long as you do something, if you do something, then if you get one like on social media, let me tell you, for the not too savvy techies, right there, right? Like for people that don't know much about technology, oh boy, your kids are doing all kinds of stuff online. So put them to work. Make this put them to work. Make this a family, a company.
Yeah.
So
Great point.
for those, like all of your kids or your grandkids, they're actually like crazy about TikTok now. So create a TikTok account, create an Instagram account, do crazy stuff, especially about the people that are in retail, that you need that connection with people. And people love when you're genuine and when you show them what's behind that cupcake, how you make cupcakes, and you can generate. I actually saw one, I don't know who, but someone that started actually giving classes online from this cohort, that it was a business, and then they pivoted and they decided to offer classes online on how to cook or do something. So this is the opportunity to be present in social media. You don't have to know, but it's easy because these platforms are like foolproof, so you can if I can do it, you can do it too. Yeah, just
Excellent.
go with your family members and tell them, hey, open an Instagram account for me and put pictures and take a picture of your place, tag it. They will tell you how to do it, but I think it's a great idea that you get your family involved in this thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice, to get the family involved, put them to work. I love that. But also, use the digital tools to actually create, community online. And so, and with that, I'm going to ask, the panelists, if you want to keep in touch with folks, go ahead and put your contact information into the chat feature for folks to connect with you. But we're a little over time, so I'm going to kick it back over to Karen to close us out.
Tracy, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. The wisdom that's been shared in the last hour and a half is amazing. We're gonna have 30 more amazing businesses by the time we do this again, but we have created a tradition here tonight. We're gonna do this session at the beginning for every cohort. We also, you might have seen in the chat, we launched a LinkedIn group, and we really do want to give you that platform to connect with each other. So please, it's just Beyond 6 Feet Apart on LinkedIn. It's linked to LISC's account. If we don't let you in immediately, I apologize. It's because Tina created it and she's at a family funeral, and she won't be back for a couple days, and I don't have the account, but we will let you in, and by next week you can all be connecting with each other. If I can connect with her, we'll do it. And last thing I want to announce is that one of you, I think it might have been Amanda, but I'm not sure, suggested at the end of your cohort, we should have a reunion in 6 months. And we agree. And we want to put that date out there and get it on everybody's calendar so that you remember you're going to come back together and have to say how you did with your plan. What did you learn? And we're going to ask you that question. You can ask us that question. We're trying to do some pretty ambitious things too. But so for both these cohorts, that date is January 7th. Okay, I think you guys suggested 6 months after yours. It also then gives the next cohort some time. This time, this space, unless we could actually be together in person, wouldn't that be great? On January 7th, we will send an appointment out to all of you within the next couple days. So thank you all of you so much for sharing. New Beyond 6 Feet Apart members, we can't wait to get into your plans, your creative ideas, and feel your energy and wisdom and bring it into your future. And Tracy, you met every expectation.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Round of applause for Tracy.
Thank you. No, don't applaud for me.
Good
I
job,
don't actually
Tracy.
applaud for
Killing
all
it.
of you. Thank you.
And
So
Catherine Dick.
I'm inspired by your stories.
You are,
Thank you.
you are the girl. You are the woman.
No.
Thank you.
You guys are the men and women because I am inspired by your businesses and want to thank you for all your hard work and actually making me feel positive after dealing with such horrible, horrible numbers that keep coming across my desk. To know that you guys are out there and you guys are working it, you're pivoting it, you're putting the family to work, you're getting the mailbox money. Thank you. So I'm very excited and very proud of everything that you guys are doing. So
There's
I look forward to
opportunity
next
to
time.
bad numbers. Really are. The worse
Don't worry.
the numbers, the more money to fix that problem. If there's
Yeah.
a problem, there's an entrepreneurial opportunity there. Let's go.
Exactly. Yes. We'll talk about that more offline. So thank you.
And I do have to end with a PPP plug because there's only about a week and a half left. If you didn't get a PPP loan, it's a terrible program. I would never say anything differently, but it's free money if you qualify, and the rules have changed and gotten better. So even if you thought about it early on and decided not to apply, I put the link in the chat. Just go on LISC's website. There's an equitable PPP page and you can click there, put in your info, and somebody will help you figure it out. It's free money. Don't leave it on the table. August 8th is the deadline. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Good
everybody.
night.
Bye.
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 Bye.